Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you today beneath the watchful gaze of three moons. My name is Martin O'Dwyer, and I'll be your host today, and joining me, as always, is Conor O'Brien, your host. How are we doing today, Conor?
Not too bad, buddy. I got a cup of coffee with me, so that means it's going to be a good episode. Because the episodes where I don't have coffee with me are, well, let's just say the few viewers we have, they know which ones they are. They already know.
We're gonna get the hot takes from Conor today with fueled by coffee.
Yeah, I have a cup of coffee, and someone mentioned Zack Snyder's name this week, so I'm raring to go.
my blood hunter Tarston, we were playing Friday, and he was like, something was mentioned, he was like, or like saying Zack Snyder to Conor, and I just lost it. He just absolutely lost it. It absolutely killed me. But yes, folks.
You know what? I really enjoyed it. That's my bit. Now.
Yeah.
People are like, what's Connor's kryptonite? Oh, uttering the name of Zack Snyder in his presence.
Yeah, red kryptonite, because wasn't that the one that made him go into like rage mode?
I think red kryptonite makes him go into rage. Yeah.
Yeah. So many different colours of kryptonite. But let's getting away from space rocks and getting closer to a different space rock. Today we're going
a much larger, rounder space rock.
Yeah, with lots of cool stuff on it, because this UA is awesome. Because today we're going to talk about the heroes. It's the heroes of the Krynn, isn't it?
Heroes of Krynn. Krynn is the world in Dragonlance, I believe.
Yes. You'll have to forgive me. I have not read the Dragonlance books. I think I do have them downloaded on my Kindle app. But I haven't gotten. I think I downloaded them in the wrong order as well. So it's like I tried reading them on, and it seemed like I was like 3 books into the series, and I was like, oh.
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this now, because here's the thing: you and I are. I don't want to say new to the hobby, because we've been playing the hobby for 8 years now, maybe more. At least 8 years, actually.
Yeah.
So we're by no means new to the hobby, but we're new in the sense of 5e was where we got on board. I know a lot of people. Like, if you look at like Joe Manganiello, Matt Mercer, and a bunch of people like that who would have been playing in like the 80s and stuff, Todd Kendrick and stuff, they always bring up Dragonlance books and the novels, and because Dragonlance was like the go-to setting back in the day. I'm pretty sure that was like 3rd edition era, and also like the novels played a huge part in those guys' development as fantasy nerds.
They're like an element of D&D culture as well, I'd say. They kind of passed the both of us by, because I guess we joined late.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I know the books are very, very popular. I know Dragonlance is a setting that a lot of people have been requesting for like a long time. I think we kind of knew it was coming anyway, because when they did that stream a few months back, they hinted at a couple of other things that are coming down the pipeline. Yes. You know, we're pretty sure we're getting Spelljammer, where we can now be pretty certain that we're going to get some sort of compendium for Krynn and the Dragonlance setting. Yeah. Maybe in a similar way to like Theros and Eberron and stuff like that. Maybe we're gonna get a dedicated book with some subclasses and some monsters and stuff like that.
I would be willing to put money on it that we get like a Spelljammer setting and a Krynn setting, like
before the year's out.
Yeah, before, like it'll probably be like Q4 this year.
Yeah, I'd say at this rate, I would say maybe just based on the order in which they've given them to us, because they gave us the kind of Spelljammer races a while back.
Yeah.
They had like the Ooze one, and they had, what else did they have?
Thrykreen.
Oh, Thrykreen were in it as well. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, they've given us those. I think maybe we're gonna get Spelljammer at some point in the summer, maybe, and then like closer to the end of the year, we'll probably get a Dragonlance setting. Yeah. Which would be quite cool though. I mean, like I don't always, because you and I, we both run our own homebrew worlds.
Yeah.
But I still love getting these books and kind of reading through the alternate. They have loads of really cool ideas and stuff like that. So, you know. I
was watching because D&D Beyond are putting out videos now on Call of the Netherdeep. Just kind of previews, and it was James Hake was watching, and he said something that I found both amusing and basically exactly what I buy D&D books for. And he goes, "Yeah, this is a great book, even if you buy it just to strip it for parts." And I was like, that is exactly what I do with every goddamn D&D book.
I mean, that's why I bought most of the adventures that I've only, like, I have not read most of the adventure modules I've bought, and I have most of them up as far as, nope, I just have most of them. But I've only read 1 or 2 of them the whole way through, and other ones I've skimmed, and some I've not even read at all, because I just bought them because I'm like, I just want the monsters and magic items from this thing.
Monsters, magic items, player options, that's all I buy books for.
Yeah, exactly. Again, they can be good inspiration sometimes, but like yeah, James Hake was saying, stripping them for parts is exactly it.
Yeah, no,
we're just a couple of little D&D Jawas, just stripping parts off of droids. Like
Wizards gets like a brand new car with a really fancy hood ornament on it, and as soon as they turned their back, me and you were there with spanners, like trying to pry it off. Just as an overall thing about this, I am actually like really excited. If this is what what a full Dragonlance book would be like, based on this UA, I'm so down for that. It's very, very exciting.
Just purely from the perspective of someone who is not that I'm not a fan of Dragonlance, I just don't know enough about Dragonlance to be a fan. But based on what I've seen here in this and what I've known just colloquially of picking up off people, it would seem Dragonlance is kind of what would you call it? Like a throwback to an older style of fantasy, like that quest fantasy kind of thing that you get from The Hobbit, and I know a lot of the Dragonlance books had similar kind of ideas to them as well, where they were all quest books. Each book was a quest that they were going on, you know, and so this feels kind of like that, and it feels Tolkien-esque in the sense that there's a lot of stuff here that is not, how'd you put it? Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but in the subclass, for example, there's a lot of stuff that's tied to lunar cycles and all that. And I'm like, that's like it's not a hard rule in this, but like you could totally play that in the sense of, hey DM, what's your calendar like? I'll abide by that. And you're kind of tied into the world in the same way that these things work that way. It's a little more fantastical. It's a little more like for example, werewolves can be cured in D&D at any time. Just cast remove curse, boom, done. But what if like there were rules in the world like you can only cure a werewolf's curse on a crescent moon because it's the opposite of a full moon, and you have to have this spell, but also you need to have this other ritual completed with the blood of the person who infected them or something like that. You know, it adds more, I don't know, not believability, but I guess layers to the world that makes it feel like a real lived-in thing. And I kind of get vibes like that from this, where things are a little more fantastical. They're a little more old magic as opposed to like, here's a spell that just does the thing you want it to do. If that makes sense.
I'm gonna if I could punch my antivirus, I would have just popped up another thing again. I swear to God. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, it is. It does feel very like. It's like old world druid, where it's like moon, the cycles of the moon and the alignments of the planets and all this kind of stuff. Like it's very. I nearly went into the opening monologue from Hercules with the fates there.
Yeah.
In 18 years precisely, the planets will align ever so nicely.
That bit, the sound of, I love the sound effect when Hades picks up the eyeball.
Oh,
and
it's so gross.
He picks the hair off of it and he rubs it off his shirt and he gives it back to her. And she's like, oh.
When he pulls it off, oh god, man! I love that. I love that film so much, and like, like James Woods is the perfect casting for that. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, top notch, like absolute top notch.
We'll get back to Krynn in a second, but just I love Hercules this much. When he came into audition, he was supposed to be like Hades, like this like somber, like kind of melancholic, like just down kind of, like he's kind of gothy guy. And instead he came in and was like, well, no, I'm like the Lord of the Dead. What if I'm like a used car salesman? I want to get some bargains out of you, some cheap songs.
That is absolutely a Hades is absolutely a used car salesman.
In Hercules, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In Hercules. Hey, look, we don't know what the real Hades was like, Martin. Maybe he was. True. Before people stopped believing in him and he was reduced to a bare demigod. A shadow of his former self. I'm assuming that the ancient Greeks worked off the same mentality of American gods, where like they're only powerful as long as people worship them.
Yeah. No,
which I think is really cool.
I love that concept in American Gods. American Gods is a great book. Read American Gods. Show's pretty good too.
And like all the new gods are like gods of technology and gods of like
it's media
influence and social media and stuff like that.
I think in the book, like one of the new gods might be like, I think it's the radio or something, and then for the TV series they changed it to the internet, I think, which was a really good uptick. And it was Gillian Anderson, so you one who plays Mulder in X-Files, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
But
sexy Margaret Thatcher, as she was dubbed by the internet when she was in the crowd.
And but she's like done up like David Bowie. She's even got like a David Bowie like Ziggy Stardust cool. and Ziggy Stardust style haircut, and she's got like the Ziggy Stardust face paint. It's really, really cool. It's really cool.
I can't remember specifically what it was, but I think I'm gonna get this wrong. One of the gods in the book, she is an old god, and she used to be like the spring or the harvest. No, was it the spring or the spring goddess or something like that? So she was like early in the year, and her power was when people would like start tending to their farms again after the winter, and they and that was where her worship came from. But then she like rebranded, and she became like the goddess of like Easter and stuff like that. Because people still do that, but like people don't like have spring, or not in the same sense anymore, have like spring festivals and all that, which I thought was really, I love that they kind of she just goes, oh, what if I'm just not that, and I can kind of channel the power a different way.
Actually, considering like Aphrodite is actually in American Gods, and she's messed up.
She's one that would not have gone out of style.
She
presumably, right?
We're getting really off track here.
I've only seen bits of American Gods at the show.
Like maybe after the podcast, go onto like YouTube and look up like American Gods Aphrodite, and then text me about your reaction.
Okay.
But yes, we should probably actually get into the Unearthed Arcana. So it's Heroes of Krynn. All in all, we get one
one subclass.
One race. One subclass. But yeah, we get an origin rather. We get the Kendra, which are pretty cool. We get the Lunar Magic Sorcerer subclass, which is also pretty cool. We get, I think it's 2 backgrounds, is it? Yeah.
Knight of Solemnia.
Yeah.
And Mage of High Sorcery. Yeah.
We get 2 backgrounds, and then we get 7 feats that are related to those backgrounds also. And yeah, it's a lot. We're gonna go through it and kind of give our thoughts on it and stuff. But I'm very, very excited. Very, very excited. It's really cool. There's a bunch of stuff I would literally already immediately stick onto my character.
I always say that if I read a UA and like I read whether it's a feat or an origin or a subclass or whatever, if I can read that and my mind immediately sparks with ideas of something I could make, that's a good UA.
Yes.
If it immediately evokes like inspiration in my mind for a character, I'm like, that's a good UA.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess I'll take the Kendra here. So Kendra I like because they're like small diminutive humans, and it's like so close. Kendra is so close to the German word for children, which is Kinder.
Yeah, sure. Actually, yeah.
So Kendra, they're native to the world of Krynn. Kendra are diminutive humanoids that look like humans with pointed ears and diverse appearances. Kendra have a supernatural curiosity that drives them on adventures big and small. This curiosity is said to be connected to the whimsical magic of the Feywild that some believe Kendra have a high affinity for. Due to their curiosity, many Kendra have found themselves falling through gates and portals to other planes and worlds. Unknown to most mortals, a magical phenomenon surrounds a Kendra. Spurred by their curiosity and love for trinkets, curios, and keepsakes, a Kendra's pouches or pockets will magically be filled with these objects. No one knows where these objects come from, not even the Kendra. This has led many Kendra to be mislabeled as thieves when they fish these items out of their pockets. I love that so much. There's so much there in just that paragraph already.
I like the idea that that even they don't know how things appear in their pockets. But they kind of it is who they are, so they just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
But there's something very, very old.
It's whimsical. I like it.
It's whimsical. Yeah, that's the word for it. Yeah, it's very whimsical. It's nonsensical and it's whimsical, and it doesn't need to be explained, and that's kind of what makes it good.
Yeah, I love it. Like it's just and it feels very different as well. To what we have kind of I think it is really just like it's very whimsical. So for Kendra traits, for creature type, you are a humanoid. Your size is small, and your walking speed is 30. So we're seeing they're continuing the thing where they're doing away with the reduced walking speed for the smaller races.
Yeah, there's only actually 2.5 differences between them and halflings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, 2 and 0.7 differences.
0.7? Tell me how you got the right. Tell me how you got the 0.7. I need to know.
Okay. So they basically dropped like 2 things, which is lucky and halfling nimbleness, in place of Kendra, Ace, and Taunt. That's the 2. The half is that okay. I'm gonna say the 0.7 is a combination of the fact that they have dropped. It's not 25 feet movement speed; it's 30. But again, that seems to be a trend going forward from what we've seen in leaks from the upcoming book. Which was it? Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse.
Yeah.
So that seems to be something they're doing right across the board. No one's going to have 25 feet movement speed. It's going to be 30 or higher. And then the last bit of the 0.7 is that they still have the brave feature, but with halflings, that just gives you advantage on saving throws against being frightened. They've changed this, and again, we've seen this previously in other updated subclasses and stuff and new features, where it says you have advantage on the saving throws you make to avoid or end the condition, which is a clarification. It's not just about the initial trying to resist a fear. Every saving throw you make against that fear, even once you're already frightened, you have advantage on. That's the only clarification. I imagine we're probably going to see that on the halfling when it appears in Monsters of the Multiverse as well. But yeah, so yeah, they're very similar to halflings, but like you said, they're just a far more whimsical halfling. Whereas I consider halflings to be quite mundane in standard kind of D&D.
D&D, yeah, they're one of the more common races as well, I think, in terms of what people pick.
Yeah, exactly. And like I feel that's kind of down to the fact that like
Lucky is just so good.
Well, Lucky is you can build some really broken between Lucky, the Luck Feat, Bountiful Luck for halflings, playing a divination wizard, and just you can just re-roll as many dice as you want like all day long. But yeah, I think the halflings get a weird kind of position in D&D where they're included because I feel like they have to be sometimes.
Yeah.
But I do feel like their lore is pretty like vanilla. It's like they're just happy people who like, good homely lives, and they don't have their own culture. They just kind of hang around with humans, and I find them to be very vanilla. Not in a bad way. I think you can very much play a very interesting halfling character regardless. But I do feel like they tend to just be lumped in with humans as like, oh, they're like humans but smaller, and they also like eating in home and their families and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know, like, because I know with humans are always described like. The thing they always hit on with humans is like they're super adaptable. They go everywhere and spread everywhere, and they change.
I hate that. I hate it so much.
Like, I was like, okay, that's great. Like, but like, okay. But like with I feel like with I nearly said hobbits with halflings.
Don't do that.
I know.
You want to get sued?
Not by Tolkien either. Jesus.
I'll just shatter your world.
I know, jeez. I just have to peel the skin off the top left hand part of my shoulder there, so the tattoo comes away. No, yeah, with hobbits. God damn it, man. I said it again.
We're done now. So, well, guys, this has been the last episode of the Micflayers podcast.
It's like baseball.
Back to the Stone Age.
It's like baseball. I can say it one more time and we're out. But yes, with halflings. I feel like with halflings they really stick to the like Tolkien-esque like description of hobbits, where like like I was literally watching it's only particularly fresh in mind because I was literally watching a bunch of what looked like really kind of like gym bro kind of guys watch the Fellowship for the first time, and it was the thing where they say like like halflings are not great warriors or adventurers. They're more concerned with the growing of crops and farming them and and like the eating of food and the curing of meats and the smoking of pipe weed, like.
Yeah.
And also that always gets a laugh. Oh
yeah, every single time. Yeah. I don't like. I'm pretty sure it's been kind of semi-confirmed that like pipe weed is not like modern day marijuana. Like.
It definitely isn't, but like it's just still is very funny when Saruman's like, you're smoking too much weed, man.
See, tell me something. Is that something that he actually says in the books, like, or?
Oh God, I'd actually have to go back and look because my memory of the books and the
that
film
to me
are
almost
so
feels
intertwined.
like, yeah.
That feels almost like a modern look back on it.
Because I'm pretty confident Tolkien didn't intend for pipe weed to be straight up marijuana.
He did not.
No. This is pipe weed. Pipe weed is literally just what they call tobacco in that world. But yeah, no, I agree. I think halflings and humans get the very vanilla treatment of just being average folk when it comes to this. So I like that these guys are a little bit more whimsical, a little more out there, there's something a little bit mysterious and fey about them, which is cool as well.
Yeah, we'll get into the actual Kendra Traits feature here because it does have to be honest, I think it's really, really cool. I really like it, and I don't think it's like super overpowered or anything. It's just like you're always useful, I guess is how I would phrase it. So, like, at third level, you possess a magical ability to pull an item out of a bag or another container. As a bonus action, you can reach into a container you're carrying and roll on the Kendra Aces table to determine what item you pull out. The object glimmers softly and disappears after 1 hour. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, which I really like. And you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So, out of the d6, you're, a roll of 1 is 5d6 gold pieces. 2 is one simple weapon of your choice that has the light property. 3, one item of your choice from the adventuring gear table in the player's handbook. The item must cost no more than one gold piece and weigh no more than 1 pound. 4, one random item from the trinkets table in the player's handbook. 5, your choice of a crowbar or grappling hook. And 6, one item of your choice from the tools table in the player's handbook, and it must not cost more than 10 GP.
I love this. I think it's a little bit silly, but again, that kind of fits really nicely with the whole whimsical thing.
Jeez, I just punched my pop filter. No, like when I read this, I instantly thought Artificer. Instantly, I went, this is an Artificer. Yeah. This is like you pull out like a bunch of useful things from pouches in your pocket, and you're like MacGyver them together, like it's a bomb now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know.
No, yeah, 100%. Because like you could just see him. Like I can picture this little small Kender Artificer with a huge rucksack full of I got all my tools and little scrap pieces of metal and all these other items and stuff. And then like in a moment, someone might be like, I need to pick this lock. Like, give me a second. And you're like, okay, sorry, look through this. I think I have it here. And you're like pulling out like a wrench and a fez hat and a chicken, and then you're like, here we go. And like, I got it.
Yeah, or you've been captured and they leave you in the room, and like the Kender's just like, all right, my hands are behind my back. I guess I'll just manifest lockpicks though, like because it's from the equipment, like it's from the equipment list.
You would still have to roll correctly for it though.
Yeah. But like that would be the thing, and you can also use it a number of times equal to your proficiency. So like you've probably got like 2 to 3 shots at this.
Yeah. Realistically, you could roll 6 times in the space of a minute easily and get 6 different items, and then you're likely to maybe hit one of them that is a lockpick or chief's tools or something like that.
It is limited to your proficiency bonus, so early on you'll only get 1, 2, 3.
Oh, true. Actually, yeah. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But still, you're talking about at least a couple, like 2 or 3 times at least. Yeah.
But it's just I really like it. It's just that kind of like there's like a spark of chaos there that I really appreciate. Like.
Yeah, it fits very well with a kind of chaotic character, or this could be kind of interesting if you want to play like a sorcerer as well, like a wild magic sorcerer, and you just wanted to load on the chaos and the random tables and stuff.
Yes. Oh god, someday I'll do that. So our next feature we have is Taunt. You have a supernatural ability to hone in on a creature's emotional raw nerves and craft a taunt that flusters that creature. As a bonus action, you can unleash a barrage of insults at a creature within 60 feet of you that can hear and understand you. The target must succeed on a wisdom save. The DC is equal to 8 plus your proficiency plus your charisma, or it has disadvantage on attack rolls until the start of your next turn. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. It's like cutting words, basically.
Yeah, this is a great ability though.
Yeah. Oh god. Like
I mean, it's not even like the next. It's not even the next attack roll they make, which I think Vicious Mockery does.
That's what I'm thinking of, Vicious Mockery.
Yeah. But Vicious Mockery is the next attack roll they make. So if they have 2 attacks in a turn, only the first one's going to be disadvantage. In this case, it's all attack rolls they make until the start of your next turn. So that means any opportunity attacks they make, any attacks they make on their turn, hasted actions. If you're fighting like hobgoblins or something like that, and they're doing their like thing where one of them commands the others as a reaction to do a thing and all that, all disadvantage, which is nice.
Yeah.
Really great ability. I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, like I could see like myself.
Could go well with a bard if you wanted to kind of double up on the ability to kind of mess with other people's rolls. Yeah.
That's totally what I was thinking. Was that like looking at this kind of this creature like as at Kender, like I'm seeing like artificer, bard. Hell, you could probably make a gunslinger actually, because you could probably argue that you could like manifest or like pull like random scrap bits together to like build like literally you could literally make a MacGyver character with this. I think that's what I like. Yeah,
no, absolutely. No, I think it's good. I it's kind of hard to discount halfling because they are a great race. With the halfling luck ability and stuff like that, and the ability to resist fear and everything. They're a really, really solid race. But I do feel like this measures up nicely. The taunt I think is quite powerful, not overly so, but just it's a good solid ability. And then the Kendra Ace thing is like powerful, but not overly powerful because of that chaotic element to it.
Yeah.
Where it's not broken, where you can just manifest whatever you need in a moment. But like it could provide for some very funny or very interesting moments if you need them to. So
I just love the idea of like a party's like standing around like, oh man, how are we going to get past this guard? And then the Kender just reaches into his pouch and pulls out 5d6 gold coins. Like,
yeah.
Like this is how we're getting past the guard.
Also, like surely you would want to like do that on a, oh no, never mind, what am I saying? I was going to say, like, surely you would do that at least at the end of every day just to see if you get more money, but it only stays around for an hour or so. Yeah, it wouldn't matter.
It's fun.
But that's gonna be a lot of really pissed off guards all over town, like city watch who you bribed with like 5d6 gold pieces, and they're like, oh wow, thanks very much. Yeah, sure, go on in. And then like an hour later, they're like, hey, all of my money is gone. Where's that halfling or that Kender?
Oh man, yeah, it's so great. It's so great. Do you want to take the sorcerer?
Sure, let's jump in.
Yeah.
The Lunar Magic Sorcerer. I get such flashbacks to because we only talked about the Lunar Cleric recently, the Moon Cleric, with the Taldora guide. But Lunar Magic. On many worlds, the moon is revered as a celestial body with magical properties. On Krynn, the gods of magic are associated with the world's 3 moons. On the world of Toril, the god Selûne also uses the light of the moon to battle darkness. On Eberron, the scholars of draconic prophecy decipher ancient secrets from the waxing and waning of the moons of the world's 12 moons.
You'd never get a wink of sleep.
Just constant like pictures in your head all night long.
No, it'd be like sleeping under floodlights. 12 moons.
Oh yeah. You or someone from your lineage has been exposed to the concentrated magic of the moon or moons of your world, imbuing you with lunar magic. Perhaps your ancestor was involved in a druidic ritual involving an eclipse, or maybe a mystical fragment of the moon crashed near you. However, you came to have magic. Your connection to the moon is obvious when you cast the sorcerer spell. When you cast sorcerer spells. Consult the Manifestations of Lunar Magic table when choosing or randomly determining how your connection to the moon manifests when you cast your sorcerer spells. Right off the bat, I really love the Manifestations of Lunar Magic. I like, one of my favorite things about sorcerers is that they're essentially mutants. They're essentially,
I was literally about to say that.
I think people gloss over that an awful lot. Like they just play sorcerers like they're just another caster. But the fun of being a sorcerer from a character perspective is you're essentially an X-Men. You're essentially someone who got mutated by some form of magic, whether it's shadow, storm, draconic, celestial, or in this case lunar. And then a lot of their classes will be like, hey, you have this now physical feature or trait that happens as a result of you being imbued with that magic. So if you're a draconic bloodline sorcerer, it's said you have like scales, like light scales on some parts of your body and stuff like that are the color of your origin, which I think is really cool. I think if you're the aberrant mind has a lot of really weird ones. Like sometimes you're like consistently slimy, or you kind of
such you a have bad, can you imagine if you rolled randomly for it rather than picking, and you were like, okay, whatever we roll, I'll go on it, no take backsies, and you roll and you're like, I'm always slimy.
I'm always slimy. It'd be like an episode of Always Sunny when Frank comes in covered in disinfectant, and he's like, I'm pure. And he's running like a slug into the bar.
The gang get a patron.
Yeah. Oh god. But yeah, I love them. So you have ones that make you glow with faint light or with the color of the moon. Sometimes your pupils shift in shape, matching the current phase of the moon. That's pretty cool. So spectral cool. Manifestations of the moon orbit you, or moons orbit you, and your shadow is limbed. Is that a word?
I have a feeling that's meant to be lined, and someone hit the M key and the N key.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Lined in faint light, as if you were a lunar body during an eclipse. That makes way more sense. Yeah. But yeah, I just think it's purely it's purely something that is just flavor text.
Yeah.
But again, if you're going to play a sorcerer, you got to play up the weird. You got to be like, oh, I have this feature, my eyes are this color, my hair changed color, I have this type of skin, it's constantly cold around me, or the wind faintly blows around me because I'm a storm sorcerer.
I don't know why I found I have this kind of skin really funny. Just imagine you're talking to someone and like in a campaign, like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a cleric of this god, and what can you do? Have you seen my skin?
Look how greasy it is at all times of the day, non-stop.
Oh god. Yeah, the pupils thing actually reminds me of the Lightbringer novels we were talking about last week, because depending on what color of magic you use, it dyes the whites of your eyes.
Interesting.
Your eye, like around your pupil, you will get rings of color based on what colors you can draft. And like in that book, prisms, which are the only people who can use all 7, they have prismatic eyes.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I really like this. That whole like the physical manifestation of your magic in your body is really cool, and that's the whole thing that Sorcerer is about, because it's literally you have magic in your DNA, and it just happened one day.
Yeah, exactly. So the first level, we have 2 first level things here. The first one is just you learn the Sacred Flame cantrip. It's called Moonfire. But what they do when they can augment it a little bit is you can target 2 creatures as long as they're within 5 feet of each other with that same casting of the cantrip. Which is quite nice. It's rather, I think I would have been somewhat disappointed if they're just like, here, have this free cantrip. I like that they augment it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. And again, radiant damage fits the moon perfectly when it comes to.
I'd flavor that like a giant like crescent moon, like a giant flaming crescent moon that just strikes across people, like the throwing knives that Moonlight uses.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be sick.
That's the first ability. We also have Lunar Embodiment, and this is really where the class gets its kind of bread and butter. So you learn one, not a set of new spells, but one of 3 sets of new spells. Yes. Each one corresponding to a different phase of the moon. So, for example, you can have the full moon spell list, the new moon spell list, or the crescent moon spell list, and these go at the sorcerer levels 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th. So by the time you're 9th level, you have all the spells from this thing. I think it's a bit like cleric, because I think you normally cleric spell lists you have before you hit level 10 all your specific subclass spells.
I need to play cleric.
So so with full moon, you get a Fairy Fire, Moonbeam, Death Ward, Freedom of Movement, and Mass Cure Wounds. For new moon, you get Dissonant Whispers, Darkness, Bestow Curse, Evard's Black Tentacles, and Mislead. For Crescent Moon, you get Sanctuary, Blindness, and Deafness, Phantom Steed, Hallucinatory Terrain, and Dream. So I think right away we're kind of setting up the flavor of each moon. The full moon is kind of like it's a bit defensive or a bit buff kind of related. Yeah. It's got healing. It's got stuff you can use to give your allies advantage. It's got stuff you can use to move around easier, prevent people from dying. The new moon one, it's not quite offensive, but it has some more. It's more like if the full moon is stuff that's like the blessed cantrip where it's a buff. This is more like Bane where it's a debuff. Yeah. And it's more about, it has Dissonant Whispers, Darkness, Bestow Curse, Everard's Black Tentacles, and Mislead. These are all things that are going to mess with your enemies. And then the Crescent Moon one has stuff that's more utilitarian. Is that what I'm looking for?
Yeah.
We have Sanctuary. It's almost pacifist, because it has, and anytime I see the Sanctuary spell, I'm like, that guy doesn't want to fight. But yeah, it has Blindness, Deafness, which again is like you can use without hurting someone. You can just kind of disable them almost. Phantom Steed, Hallucinatory Terrain, and Dream are all kind of good utility spells then.
Yeah. I don't know how pacifist it is to rob someone of their sight or their hearing, but I totally get what you mean.
It's definitely not chill.
No, it's most certainly not chill.
It is whatever the opposite of chill is. That is what that spell is. Yeah. I don't think you can be a pacifist and be like, let me just take your sight for a minute.
Yeah.
No, certainly not. And then you can. And the cool thing about this, you often get. My monitor popped up and was like, I'm going to turn off in 5 minutes. And I'm like, don't you dare. So hit the button again. So normally when it comes to like sorcerers, not all of them, but some of them get expanded spell lists. Those that do not counting the Celestial Sorcerer, because that shit's just broken. But you get an expanded spell list, you get a bunch of extra spells, you gain over levels. You would normally be stuck with a list of spells. In this case, they just give you all these spells, and you can, over a long rest, you can swap to one of the other phases on a long rest, which is really, really cool. Like it gives you like a pretty substantial bit of versatility that you don't normally get when it comes to a sorcerer, barring their meta magics and stuff. But when it comes to the spell list, sorcerers are very rigid because they can only normally swap spells out when they level up.
I always feel bad for my sorcerer when we're playing, because like there's Mandray, who's a druid, and he goes new spells every day, and then like it'll be like they get to level, and then my sorcerer is just like, oh my god, I get to change my spells. I know. Like you finally do it.
You get to change your spells. You got to really lean on those meta magics real hard when you're a sorcerer to feel versatile.
I really like this though. It reminds me of the old Eladrin, where you could do summer, winter, autumn, and
different seasons,
and spring. That was really cool. Like, I really enjoyed that because I actually did get to play a good bit of that as well. Whatever, I normally always just picked whatever one I liked the most, but like usually the most damaging one. But like I really
also I'm just catching this now. While in the chosen phase, spells of the associated phase in the lunar spells table can be cast once without expending a spell slot. That's really good. You've one casting of each of those.
Sorry, I was going to say that doubles down then when we get to some of the later features as well.
Yeah, that's unreal. That's really, really good. I didn't spot that when I was reading through the first time. So not only do you have like one of three expanded spell lists you can choose from on a long rest, you basically get 5 extra spells or spell slots of the fixed spells and spell slots, but you can cast a day. Brilliant, because people are always complaining that Sorcerer doesn't have enough spells and doesn't get enough spell slots because they don't have like an arcane recovery or anything like that, like wizards do. That's really good. That's a really, really powerful ability.
It's pretty nuts.
Up next, we have 6th level, which is Lunar Boons. So this is lunar phases influence your meta magic. Each lunar phase is associated with the spells of the following schools of magic. So for the full moon, it's abjuration, conjuration. For new moon, it's evocation, necromancy, and for crescent moon, it's divination and transmutation. And the way that this works, this is an okay spell, but here I have a minor criticism about this. So basically, what happens with this is whenever you use a meta magic spell. Meta magic on a spell from the lunar table or from the school of magic associated with the current phase, lunar phase you are in, you can reduce the sorcery point spent by 1. So if you're only spending 1 sorcery point to do a meta magic ability, you will... Did I lose you, Martin?
Nope.
Oh, you're just standing. Sorry, you're just standing very, very still. I waited for like a couple seconds there, and I'm like, "Is he frozen?" You were just standing very still. Sorry. So if you're casting a meta magic with one of your spells that costs a single sorcery point, you can now choose to have it cost nothing. Likewise, if you're spending 2 sorcery points, it costs 1, 3 it costs 2, so on and so forth. You can do that a number of times equal to your proficiency modifier, and you regain all those back on a long rest. That's a really cool ability. That's going to net you, at most, that's going to net you 6 sorcery points back in a day. Not a bad ability. Here's my problem, and it's just a slight misalignment with how this works versus what the base class is. And that's that, although the ability is really, really cool, sorcerers, because, if you're casting some of your ones from your spell list, we'll say, from your expanded spell list, that's fine. That's no problem at all. You can potentially get stuff back on them. The problem I find comes with you're trying to cast spells that might be outside of that. Spells that might be like abjuration, conjuration, necromancy, all that kind of stuff, right? Sorcerers can't change their spells very often, which means you're kind of encouraged by this to have a super diverse spell list if you want to make use of all the cycles. Yes. So we'll say if you're in your Crescent Moon cycle because you really want to have... No, screw that. Reverse that. Let's say you're in the full moon cycle, okay? Which is your abjuration and conjuration.
Yes.
You're going to get... potentially get a meta magic a sorcery point back for any spells you cast that are of those 2 schools. But what if you built your sorcerer with the idea that they are a blaster? And they're all about evocation and stuff like that. And you don't want to diversify or dilute down your spell list among a bunch of different schools. You're like, I kind of just want to be able to hit people with as much different damage types as possible. This grants you a lot of versatility, but the way that this works, where it says, hey, you get rewarded for having lots of different types of spells, doesn't line up with the fact that sorcerers don't get a lot of different types of spells. It's not the worst thing. It doesn't break this ability. It's still a good ability. I just feel like there's a slight misalignment there in what this ability does for you in terms of the different schools of magic and what sorcerers are at their core, which is a somewhat inflexible caster when it comes to being able to change their spells out. If a wizard got this ability, that would work beautifully, because the wizards can change their spells on the daily. They could be like, today I'm going to be a full moon lunar caster, and I'm going to pick all conjuration and abjuration spells, meaning I'm going to get the most benefit out of that. But there's inherently going to be times where you're in one cycle because you're like, I need to have these spells with me. But as a result, now I'm not getting sorcery points back on the rest of my spell list, which is geared towards a different type of school.
Yeah. I totally get what you mean in terms of like just the slight mismatch there. I actually wouldn't have been surprised if this maybe started off as like a druid class when they were originally developing it, because you'd have that a bit that flexibility and ability to change.
Yeah,
but I think
that this would benefit. You'd get way more benefit out of an ability like this. I know other classes don't get meta magic, but a similar feature maybe you'd get way more benefit if this was a druid or a cleric or even a wizard, because they just have more flexibility when it comes to the spells they take every day. If you have a set spell list that you're playing multiple weeks at that level, because you don't level up as fast, but you can swap your things on a long rest, your phases. Yeah, I feel like you'd almost be encouraged to kind of either gear strictly one way, but then you're not making full use of the two other phases you have and the two other expanded spell lists. But if you diversify too much, you're maybe not as potent in one particular field that you want your character to be potent in,
Yeah, totally. I think as well with the phases thing, I think there's an opportunity there to do a bit of story and mechanics combining, where you could have maybe when you start off, they only have the new moon phase. And then as they level more, maybe you can set up side quests around maybe gaining new phases of the main, phases of the moon.
Phases of the main.
Yeah, phases of the main. Or get it, but like you could almost do like an Avatar style quest line.
Would they travel around to different magical schools, and each one is orientated with a specific phase of the moon? Like this is the full moon college or the full moon clan.
I was almost thinking more like, the way, so for people who are not from Ireland, there is a Neolithic passage tomb up in the middle of the country called Newgrange, and on the summer solstice every year, it aligns with the sunrise in such a way that the light goes down the main corridor of the tunnel and illuminates the inside of the tunnel, and people come around from like internationally and all over Ireland to see it. I think it could be really cool to do. I need to give that reference for what I'm going to say next. I think it'd be really cool to do like three Newgrange style like tombs or temples, where it's like one. It's like this is the planet. There's like one here, and one here, and then like over the course of them leveling, they travel to maybe they like start their journey at one, and that's where they came from. And then you maybe don't limit their abilities, but like they have to pass a test at the trials of the new moon, trials of the full moon, trials of the crescent moon, that kind of thing, and they have to make a pilgrimage really from those three temples around to get a title or something like that.
I think about that with a lot of different classes as well. Like I know I give out about it a lot, but I think about very much in the realm of doing a kind of Avatar style quest line where you have to learn from each of the sister clans, whatever their method is, and then you can implement it. Like almost purposely as a player limiting yourself, like choosing to be limited. But like it works as a very good motivator to be like, I really, really want to go to this temple because I'll unlock a whole new set of abilities. If you're to play like an elemental monk, you might come from, or even like you play a druid or something like that where you have elemental magics.
Yeah.
Again, doing like a keyleth on it, which is very much based on Avatar, so it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But you might only take wind and sky based spells, because you're like, oh, I'm an Aeroshari, I'm only going to take those, and I will not take any fire based spells until I visit the other clan, and I can have some time, like maybe a week's worth of downtime with the head of that clan, and they will show me how the element of fire works, and then I can pick air and fire spells.
Yeah.
And like I think again, it's a really, really great motivator. It would get your party moving constantly, or always have something on the horizon, like, oh, now I've got fire. Well, do you know what? I can head south because the water clan is just to the south of here, or something like that. It'd be a great thing to kind of get people continent hopping or just exploring the world, and that there's a place. It's a very, it's almost kind of Lord of the Rings-esque in the sense of, or The Hobbit, in the sense of, we know where our destination is. Let's make going there the quest,
Totally.
Which we talked about a couple of weeks ago on our episode on travel.
Yeah.
Make the travel the quest rather than a tedious thing you need to do in order to get the place you're going. Make the travel into the quest.
Yeah. Make it a feature. Yeah.
Make it a feature of it, exactly.
Awesome.
The other 6th level ability we have here is Waxing and Waning. I also have a slight problem with this, just in that it seems a little bit pointless to me. So what this does is, at 6th level, as a bonus action, you can spend a single sorcery point to change your lunar phase to a different one. Okay, I like the versatility of it. It's not a bad feature at all, but when you can already change on a long rest what set of things you want, I think I look at the spell lists that are here, and I'm like, I can't necessarily see myself so desperately needing one of these other ones that I'd reshuffle my whole character for the day, if that makes sense,
I can make one argument for you here for it.
Oh.
Death Ward.
Maybe if you were like in one of the other spell lists, and you were like, we're about to face off against something big that we weren't expecting. But that's the thing, like, I mean, unless we're ambushed, and I'm like, I really need to make sure that someone has Death Ward cast on them right this very moment. But I mean, most days I feel like have a fairly good idea what you're going up against. If you're climbing the mountain, the dragon's at the top. You're going to take the thing that's going to be best for fighting the dragon.
I'm more thinking of like almost like a last minute thing, because like Death Ward is just an action to cast, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, let's say like you have a party member who's like about to go down, and it's going to be bad if they go down. You, on your turn, you burn the sorcery point to shift yourself into the full moon spell list. You now have Death Ward. You cast Death Ward on the person and save their life. Or alternatively, if it's a very high level combat, and like say like the party fails, like for argument's sake, let's say your party is like 20th level party, and you're all fighting like the aspect of Tiamat, and all of you, and like everyone but you fails the dex save, and they take the full blast of the Tiamat breath weapon, and
which
like,
is something insanely high.
Absurdly high. Yeah. So like they take that, and then you didn't. Your turn comes up soon. You then shift yourself into the full moon phase again to get mass cure wounds.
Yeah. Okay. No, I can see where you're coming from. I think I could see a couple of instances where maybe I would consider doing it
as well. Like I'm all these I'm saying are shifting to the full moon just because of the spells I'm looking at. I can immediately pick out uses for, like, even you're in the new moon. Maybe you're in the new moon or crescent moon spell list, and invisible enemies attack you. Shift into the other spell list for fairy fire.
Yeah.
Do it again to shift back to the one for one turn. Do it again the following turn to shift back into the one you were using anyway. I like it because it's got like I think there are some good uses for it. I think they are specified in specific cases. But like darkness is good, fairy fire good.
I think all the lists are pretty solid, and again, they all have this will become even more obvious when we move on to the next feature, actually, about what each of the phases is geared towards. But yeah. So if you look at the next feature, next one is 14th level ability. It's Lunar Empowerment. This is actually this is really solidly good, as a feature.
This is awesome.
Yeah. So based on the lunar phase that you are in, you basically gain one of these benefits. So full moon, you shed bright light for 10 foot radius and an additional 10 feet of dim light. In addition, you and all creatures of your choice have advantage on saving throws while in the bright light you shed. That's basically Paladin's aura, which is unbelievable. That's great. The New Moon one is you have advantage on stealth checks, and as long as you're in dim light or darkness, creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls against you. Which, if you're inside any sort of cave or anything like that, that's so good. Like so good. Or even just outside at dusk. Like, you know, if it's even a little bit like dim outside, immediately all attacks have disadvantage on you, which is brilliant. And then the final one, Crescent Moon, is you have resistance to radiant and necrotic damage. And again, like this really feels like what you're kind of going for in terms of the three ones. We mentioned that like the full moon seems to be like a buffing thing. So if you look at that, we have the aura that gives everyone advantage on saving throws. The new moon is like a debuff thing, which gives creatures disadvantage when they're attacking you if you're in darkness. And then the Crescent Moon is kind of the utilitarian one, but it's also like
Crescent Moon is kind of tanky.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Like they're a little bit tanky. They're a little bit like they're almost like they don't want to be in the fight. Like if you have resistance against necrotic and radiant damage in a combat encounter, that's really relevant. And you also have Sanctuary cast on yourself, and then you're just kind of buffing your allies or healing your allies or whatever. Like that's a really good combo. So they're kind of the guys who like are there to assist with utility stuff, but aren't necessarily going to get stuck in a fight. Whereas the other two are going to be in the fight, but one's going to be helping your allies, and the other one's going to be hindering your enemies. So I think I think it becomes really, really obvious when you hit that 14 level mark. And actually, I remember thinking this a while ago when I was reading over the subclass. The 6th level ability of changing on a bonus action, you've kind of convinced me a little bit. I could see it being slightly more useful than I thought it originally was. When you hit 14th level,
it becomes very useful.
Because you can swap on the fly between any of these three or additional abilities, which is brilliant. That's the kind of thing where I'm like, let's say you need to sneak through an area and you're like, oh, I don't have great stealth or great dex. What if you're like, I wasn't expecting to have to sneak today. I'll use one bonus action and a sorcery point, change to the new moon phase, and now I have advantage on my stealth check. Which is really, really good. And even if I get seen by the archers up on the wall, it doesn't matter because they'll all just have disadvantage on attack rolls against me.
Yeah.
So I think that 14 level ability is solid, like really solid.
It's very, very good.
And then the final one we have is Lunar Phenomena. That's the 18th level ability. For the full moon, I believe it's an action, and you can do a Oh no, sorry. Alternatively, it's part of. Oh, sorry. It's part of the bonus action. So it's either a bonus action or you can do it as part of the bonus action you use to change your lunar phase. So again, that makes a 6th level ability even better again, because not only are you changing with a bonus action, you're also doing this ability with it as well. You can blind, so you force creatures, each creature of your choice within 30 feet to make a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC, and they are blinded until the end of their next turn. So their individual next turn means they're guaranteed to be blinded until then. In addition, one creature of a choice in that area gets 3d8. Again, we are buffing our allies with the full moon. With the new moon, you momentarily emanate an oppressive gloom. Each creature of your choice within the 30 feet must succeed a dex save or takes 3d10 necrotic damage. And its speed reduced to 0 until the end of its next turn again. So it's guaranteed to miss out a full turn of moving. In addition, you become invisible until the end of your next turn, or until you make an attack or cast a spell. That's also really good because, again, we're damaging and debuffing our enemies by reducing their speed to 0. And finally, Crescent Moon, you slip through light and darkness, and you can teleport up to 60 feet or in an occupied space from where you were. In addition, you gain resistance to all damage until the start of your next turn.
Again, the tank.
they're tanking, and they're like, I don't want to be in the fight, but if you're going to hit me, it's not going to do a lot of damage. And also, I'm moving 60 feet over there. Once you use this ability, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you spend 5 sorcery points to do so. But these are really good abilities. Again, the 6th level thing, it bugs me that it's not as useful, but it does get way more useful as you go down the line, because swapping between them and being that versatile kind of sorcerer is what's going to really benefit you with this subclass. I really like it. I think it's a good subclass. like I said, I have a couple of little criticisms in there, but like they're very, very minor compared to what is otherwise a very powerful subclass.
Yeah, I think it scales extremely well. Like as its power curve as it gets, like it basically goes like, and then 14 hits.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I always have a problem with classes and subclasses that like give you an ability at third level or sixth level, and it's like, here's the thing you can do, and by the time you're like 17th level or 15th level or something like that, you're like, I can still do that thing, and it still does the exact same amount of dice or whatever, whether that be damage or healing or whatever it is, and it's just not as useful. So being able to like, the way it scales up with all the abilities, and it becomes, having that spell list becomes way more powerful as you level up is really good. And again, you can also just, you're very multi-purpose as well. You're kind of like, I can be the buffer, I can be the debuffer, and I can be kind of just, if I'm particularly squishy maybe or whatever, I can kind of stay out of the fight as best I can.
You feel like a supportive tank, almost.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting subclass. I really like this like multifaceted, like multi-layer kind of build on. Like it's like a chain of things you build upon to get to that at the very top. And like I think what I like the most about it is it feels very responsive. Like it feels like you will always have options in terms of like when something comes up. Like you can not that you have an answer to everything, but you will always have an option that you can change. You know, you won't always be stuck with the same thing. But like you do have an answer to a lot, which is, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know what? I'm kind of thinking about it now, and like when I was saying before that like sorcerers are not very flexible, you tend to build them one way and kind of stick that way until you level up and can change up their spell lists. But this gives you the option to, at the very least, have those three roles of buff, debuff, and kind of like elusiveness, I suppose, whether it be shrugging off damage or just staying out of the fight. It's you do have a lot of flexibility with the subclass. I like that they do something unique, which is like, it's almost like when you're like a ranger, or whether you're like a totem barbarian and stuff like that, where like ranger hunter can pick like certain moves they can do, and totem barbarian picks certain animal totems. This is like kind of similar to that, except you're changing way more on the fly. But it's nice that they kind of give you it's almost like a subclass within a subclass. Each of these kind of things are, because if you came to the table and you only had the full moon abilities, you had the full moon spells, you had the full moon's feature of like giving all your allies advantage, and you had the full moon feature of blinding people and healing someone. That's a subclass unto itself. So what we really have here is three subclasses kind of melded together into one, and you just need to be willing to bounce between them and stay. You want to be a very flexible player, someone who's willing to be any and all roles at any given time.
Yeah, and if you want to go completely OTT with it, multi-class into the Moon Cleric.
just doubling down on that moon stuff.
The power of 5 moons.
You just get to make your own moon at a certain point. I only kind of glanced at some of the backgrounds. Do you want to jump to the backgrounds?
Sure thing. I'm just doing what I just got a quick little warning from my computer that might be running out of some storage space, so I'm just deleting a few things really quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I have.
Let's not have that happening yet.
I am like I have it sorted. I have it sorted. Trust me. Yes. I mostly looked, because I when this came out, I looked over the Moon Cleric stuff. Moon Cleric, goddammit, Moon Sorcerer. The Moon Sorcerer stuff, because I was like, this looks really strong. I basically read the whole thing out to my housemate going, doesn't this seem strong? And he was like, yes it does. But yes, the backgrounds and feats then, they're pretty intertwined with each other. In terms that like we get two backgrounds, which are the Knight of Solemnia and the Mage of High Sorcery. And they're basically backgrounds that specifically revolve around two organizations that exist in Dragonlance. It's obviously the Knights, and then there's a specific, I can't remember the specific name of them was. They're just called the Mages of High Sorcery, actually. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they're all very interesting stuff. But we'll get onto the Knight of Solemnia here. So as a Knight of Solemnia, you have trained to be a valorous warrior known as a Knight of Solemnia. Strict rules guide your every action, and you work to uphold them as you strive to defend the weak and oppose all forms of evil. Your honor is as important to you as your life. in terms of skills, you pick up athletics and survival. You get one type of musical instrument, one language of your choice, and then in equipment you get an insignia rank, a deck of cards, a set of common clothes, and like I think the noble background gets this as well, pouch of 10 gold pieces.
Yes, there's a mix of a few different things in there, because I think that's a noble thing, and then the insignia rank is from the soldier background.
Yeah. So like, I'm going to be honest, straight away that threw up a little red flag for me. Just listening to how that's described, because that sounds like the classic toxic paladin mental attitude. And I was like, you could totally play this.
Oh, well, you're like lawful good to an annoying degree.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
You know, like, you could totally play this and not do that. Like, you can absolutely have a great character without doing that. But as soon as I read, like, strict rules guide your every action, and you work to uphold them as you strive to defend the weak and oppose all forms of evil, immediately what I had in my head was a rogue pickpocket someone, and the knight is like, you cannot do that. By my honor as a knight of Solemnia, I must return the goods. Like, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think. I honestly, if anything like that were to happen at a table, I would more put that down to the player, the individual player, or the individual, or that DM would be responsible to a degree to step in and go, hey guys, look, you gotta remember we're all on the same team. It's a collaborative game. We're trying to work towards the same goal here. So let's not try to have too much inter-party conflict. Rogue, maybe don't steal everything that isn't nailed down. Paladin, maybe let the rogue steal a couple of things just to sate him, but like you can, like, you know, there'll be plenty of evil for you to hunt down, sir. Don't worry, you don't need to look for it within the party.
Yeah, no, that was like, and just a comment I had in it. It was just immediately popped into my head when it said it. I was like, the lawful stupid paladin is back. Well, yeah, anyway, so one of the bigger features you get here is the Squire of Solemnia. You gain the Squire of Solemnia feat presented later in this document. In addition, the Knights of Solemnia provide you free modest lodging and food at any of their fortresses or encampments. And then for build, actually, you know what, we might as well skip down to the Squire now, because it's mentioned here and just kind of brushed over.
Yeah, definitely.
So I will just run down here and get the Squire. Squire of Solemnia. So the prerequisite is that you have squireship in the Knights of Solemnia, which you would get from your background. So your training in the ways of the Knights of Solemnia grants you these benefits. Martial training, you gain proficiency with medium armor and martial weapons. Defensive rider, you have advantage on saving throws made to avoid falling off a mount. And encouraging rally, when another creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes a saving throw, you can use a reaction to inspire them. If the target can hear you and understand you, it gains advantage on the saving throw. Once you use this reaction, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So some really, actually quite useful stuff in there.
Yeah, I like the old. I don't think we get enough of it in D&D. The idea of a squire and a knight and having rank within an order and stuff like that. I do like that. Something that I'm noticing here is that with the backgrounds, they're doing a similar thing that they did in Strixhaven, which is that you're getting a feat as part of your background. Now, I don't know. I've always found that backgrounds they're more about character than strict mechanic. There's some mechanics to them, but primarily it's about like...
It's usually like a social encounter it has influence over.
Exactly, yeah, where it isn't so rules intensive or whatever. I like this though. I do, particularly because I like that like you could be any class and still get proficiency with martial weapons and armor, because like why shouldn't a wizard be able to join this if you're like playing a wizard class, but you're like, I'd still like to be... It's almost the reverse of like it's not almost kind of like the reverse of like King Arthur and Merlin, where like or maybe I'm just thinking of the old cartoon.
No, go on. I'm curious. You got me now.
Okay. Isn't there... Okay, I'm mostly thinking of the old cartoon now, which is like from like the 90s or the 80s or something. But like there is Arthur is like a young boy. He's a squire essentially. He's
you're thinking of the film The Sword and the Stone, is what you're thinking?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. It gives me this kind of vibes because like it's a bit of a reverse of that. So instead of being a young boy who's trained to be a knight, who's actually more following the wizard more times than not, what if you're like a young wizard who's training to be a wizard, but you end up hanging out with the knight an awful lot? So so you get like proficiency in these things, and you're not great with a sword, but you can still swing one if you need to in certain situations. That could be really, really cool. Yeah. You could always play something like a blade singer as well if you wanted to do that. But
yeah,
if you want to get proficiencies on those.
This is where this actually leads into the next part of the background, where they talk about building a knight of Solemnia as a character. Any class or subclass, So you could go like any class or subclass that has martial prowess can be a good fit in the Knights of Solemnia. So yeah, Bladesinger worked perfectly.
Bladesinger works perfectly, yeah. They do actually. I'm just in that. First of all, I like that they give you this, by the way. One of my favorite things that I've seen in some like campaign guides and stuff like that, when they're describing organizations, they give you ideas of here's some ideas of classes you could be if you were in that organization.
To give Strixhaven a bit of credit for once, they did actually do that quite well in Strixhaven. Because I distinctly remember they were like, oh, you know, there's I think is it Witherbloom is the guys who research life and death and history and stuff.
I think so, yeah.
But whatever one of them is obsessed with ancient lore and history, they were like, oh yeah, an ancestral guardian barbarian could call back like ancient spirits to speak to them and gain knowledge. And I was like, oh, that's such a good use of like a non-standard what you would think of a Magic University type class.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I tried to implement that in my own homebrew world as well, where like I have a group called they're basically a bunch of Judge Dreads, and they're only in the world. Yeah, they're only in the world because Gavin played a character, and he's like, I'm only part of this guild, and I'm like, that's not a thing in my world, but I guess it is now. And I put them in, they kind of made them kind of my own and stuff. But he's playing a paladin who has obviously a very strict code and stuff like that. He's like, I want to be this kind of person. I'm like, that makes perfect sense. But like, what if you wanted to be, you could be a fighter and still be part of that organization, you know? But I also thought like you could be a barbarian oath, path of the ancestral guardian. And I thought about a unique position, almost like special agents within this organization, where instead of having like a whole bunch of like spirits that, you know, come to you when you're in your rage as a barbarian, what if these people are purposely bound to two other former members of the organization who have died, and they live on as you as their host, and you have three personalities or three people within inside of you. And when you rage, you're not summoning a bunch of people, you're summoning these two specific guys who are like the angel and devil on your shoulder almost. And their specific rank in the organization is called a tribunal.
Oh, I thought you were going to... Oh, yeah, I was thinking either tribunal or triumvirate.
Yeah, because they're essentially a walking tribunal. They're three people who are judge, jury, and executioner. And rather than a single person doing that, they're like, we will judge you between us. And there's a chance that, you know, they will vote on whether or not you live in certain circumstances as well, you know?
That's very fucking cool. Oops, sorry.
But you know what, Martin, I mark all our videos as explicit anyway, so
that's fine. That's grand. That's fine. But yeah, it's a really interesting background. But yeah, just to get back to there, so fighter and paladins make up the bulk of the knighthood's forces, which makes sense. Clerics, often with the war domain, can also be found among the knights' ranks. So another really good thing. Just kind of giving you more examples of things you may not necessarily link. For a more unusual take on the Knight of Solemnia, consider playing a Bard College of Valor or College of Swords from Xanthar's Guide to Everything, or a barbarian devoted to the ideals of the nature god Habakkuk, perhaps adopting the path of the Zealot from Xanthar's Guide to Everything. That's really interesting, actually. There's like
that's another thing, because like I remember that in our first campaign we had just an order of paladins, but everyone was a paladin. But like, if I thought of it at the time, I'm like, you could just totally be a zealot barbarian, which is like, it has the exact same vibe to it. You're still you're very religious and everything, and it fits perfectly within the order. You don't have to be a paladin to be part of the religious order or part of the church. You like paladin and cleric are good options, but you could totally just be any other class and be like, I'm a fighter, I'm a rogue, I'm a wizard, but also I'm religious, so it works. You know,
I'm honestly like that would be Magic Initiate, because you can choose any spell list to pick spells from for a Magic Initiate, right?
Not for ranger or paladin.
Oh, okay, right.
Or artificer. You can only choose the full casters of wizard. I think you wizard, warlock, sorcerer, cleric, druid.
Yeah.
No, bard.
Yeah, but no, that's totally right. Yeah. I'm just looking at the suggested characteristics here. Adventurers who dedicate themselves to protecting the innocent and upholding honourable virtues are welcomed among the Knights of Solemnia. The Knights of Solemnia personality traits table suggests various traits you might adopt. So number one is I pledge my sword to the greater good. If I must perish in pursuit of that good, so be it. 2, my comrades in arms are family. I'll do whatever it takes to keep them safe. 3, the protection of innocent people comes first. All other concerns come second. 4, I joined the knights for free meals, but their lessons grew on me over time. I like that one.
Yeah.
5, I wish my deeds to become the stuff of legends, just like those of the knighthood's heroic founders. 6, a dishonorable act drove me to become a knight. I have acted with honor ever since. I like that as a, like, you did a bad thing and felt so bad about it, you massively overcorrected and became an incredibly honorable person.
I mean, perfect prime real estate there for the Oath of Redemption paladin.
Yes, actually, yeah. And even just looking at the other traits, I was like, a lot of these match up with the tenets of the Vengeance paladin too.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, I mean, if you're going to be part of an organization like this, because oftentimes when you look at like personality traits and stuff like that, and bonds and all the stuff you choose for your character, something like this you would almost have to treat more like paladin oath. You know,
Yeah.
Pick 3 or 4 of them, and that's your solid oath. Write them down in your notes on the very first page, and anytime you approach a situation and you're like, what should I do? Back to the first page, remember what your tenets are, and go, do any of these apply in the situation? You know.
Yeah. They have another fun little roll table as well for trinkets that you might have as a knight. And some of these are very, very cool. A flat silver disc, you record your heroics on, a piece of fallen knight's armor, a pendant featuring a crown, a rose, a sword, or a combination of all 3, the pommel of your mentor's sword, a meaningful favor from someone you defended, perhaps a handkerchief or a glove, a brass locket with a sketch of a silver dragon inside. I really like the mentor's sword, fallen armor, and the silver discs. I think that's really fun.
Honestly, whenever it comes to backgrounds, even not just these, but all backgrounds, the more I'm into D&D now, like when I first started playing, you're like, oh, I want to be an elf and I wanted to have this class or whatever. But like, honestly, I think I have way more focus on backgrounds now, and I'm looking, and I used to never look at these lists, but now I look at them all the time, and I'm like, ooh, what kind of trinket could I pick? Because that could be a whole character thing if I extrapolate on that kind of trinket. Like,
there's a really...
or like,
sorry, please, I cut you off.
No, that's I've already forgotten what I was going to say.
Okay, great. Just about the do you know the one that's like a piece of fallen knight's armor? That reminds there was a really cool thing in the Tapestry series or I was reading where there it was like a kind of like a magic school kind of magic university kind of thing. But they had, because one of the specialties you could choose if you're studying, you could become while studying there was basically like a warrior specialist, where like you learn magics to like make you better at fighting, improve your physical skills and constitution and all that kind of stuff. But they had like an elite group called the Red Branch, and they have like a tattoo like here of like, I think it's like it's either a rune or like it's a red tree branch. Sorry, it's like a red tree branch tattoo like that big there. And like to become a member, you can only become a member of the Red Branch when another member of the Red Branch either retires or dies. And the reason for that is that the only way you can get the Red Branch tattoo is like you go like that with a retiring member or someone who's died, and the tattoo magically burns off their skin and burns into yours. And
that's really, really cool.
That like so reminds me that just like you're going around carrying, like you have like the a fallen, like almost like you're about to leave, so they give you like the pauldron of like a knight who fell in battle, and like you're like maybe your quest is to find the rest of the armor.
Yeah, particularly if it's a holy order, maybe it was like a saint or
like a relic,
yeah, exactly. And you're like, I need to assemble this, like, you know, that again, that kind of ties back to what we were talking about a while ago. Gathering your abilities, you're on a quest for the sake of the quest. You know, the travel to all these different places is the adventure you're on. Do you want to jump on to? I'm just conscious of time. Do you want to jump on to the Mage of High Sorcery, and we can try to get through as many of the feats as possible?
Yes, we can blitz through things a little quicker here because we are running out of time. But right, so the Mage of High Sorcery. So you're a person who has a talent for magic, and you've come to the attention of the Mages of High Sorcery, which is an organization of spellcasters that study magic and prevent its misuse. You've been trained amongst the mages, but whether or not you'll face the dangerous tests required to become a true member of the group remains to be determined. Your passion for studying magic has likely already predisposed you towards one of the organization's 3 orders: the Benevolent Order of the White Robes, the Balance Pursuing Order of the Red Robes, or the Ruthless Order of the Black Robes. In the world of Krynn, many refer to Mages of High Sorcery as the Wizards of High Sorcery. This organization accepts more than wizards, so again, they give you examples like Bard, Sorcerer, Warlock, other spellcasters. In terms of skills proficiencies, you get Arcana and History, you get 2 languages of your choice, and equipment, you get a bottle of coloured ink, an ink pen, a set of common clothes, and a pouch of 10 gold pieces, which I'd imagine would also be to fit in with your station or status as a member of that order.
Yeah.
So for the features, then this is where we get some kind of fun stuff. Here is the Initiative High Sorcery. You gain the Initiative High Sorcery feat presented later in this document. In addition, the Mages of High Sorcery provide you with free modest lodging and food indefinitely at any occupied tower of High Sorcery, and for one night at the home of an organization member. That's pretty cool.
It's a common enough thing that like if you have friends in that organization, they will put you up for the night kind of thing, which I really like. Do you want to jump down to the Magic Initiate? Because I haven't looked at these properly. I'm kind of curious.
No problem. Initiate of
High Sorcery.
So prerequisite is you have the Apprentice of High Sorcery, which is the background. Which you get from being in the background. You've received training from magic users affiliated with the Mages of High Sorcery. Choose one of the 3 moons of Krynn, each of which is associated with a distinct type of magic. The Black Moon, Nulltar. Yeah, is that Nuitari or Nulltari?
Nuitari.
Yeah, Nuitari. Yeah, Nuitari. The Red Moon, Lunatari, the White Moon, or Solinary. Oh, sorry, I got them backwards. Black Moon, Nuitari, Red Moon, Lunatari, White Moon, Solinatari. Solinary? What? I'm sorry.
Solinary.
I'm just going to take this moment to apologise to any Dragonlance fans. Listen.
We're very new to the whole Dragonlance thing, but we're enthused.
Yes. We're very excited. You learn 1 cantrip and 1 first level spell based on the moon you choose, as specified by the Lunar Spells table. You can cast the chosen first level spell without a spell slot, and you must finish a long rest before you can cast it in this way again. You can also cast the spell using any spell slots you have. Your spellcasting ability for this feat spell is Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma, chosen when you select the feat. So in terms of spells then, under Nuitari, you get to choose from one of these 3 cantrips: Chill Touch, Mage Hand, and Vicious Mockery. And first level spells, you can choose 1 first level wizard spell from the Evocation or Necromancy school. Lunatary, you choose from Guidance, Message, and Prestidigitation as your cantrips, and your first level wizard spell comes from either Divination or Transmutation. And Solinary, you choose 1 from Produce Flame, Resistance, and Spare the Dying, and your first level wizard spell comes from either Abjuration or Conjuration, which is pretty badass.
Yeah, it's following a similar theme to the subclass we saw above as well, with the different groupings of magical schools and everything.
Absolutely. It's I really like how that's set up, and just the level of choice you're getting now with these Unearthed Arcanas. It's really fun.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, please go ahead.
I was going to say, if I may just jump ahead just a little bit, because there is one thing I do want to talk about before we do run out of time. So the Initiative High Sorcery is a feat you get for picking this this background, right? And it forms a really good basis on your character. It fits them into the world and everything. Something they do here, and I think they did, I can't remember if they did this in Strixhaven as well, but it's something I do like an awful lot, and I'm kind of a bit curious as to why it's been absent from D&D so far. Because we'll say the Magic Initiate feat is something you can take in the standard rules. It's a great feat. It gives you 2 cantrips of your choice and a first level spell you can cast once. It's a great little flavor thing. It gives you a little bit of utility if you're any other class that wouldn't normally have magic, or if you're already a magic class and you just want to get a few more tricks you can do. But they don't have a thing where you can advance that any further. They don't have like Magic Initiate, Magic Apprentice, Magic Adept or something where you have to have the previous one, and you could take like just you could be like a fighter battle master, but if you take all 3 of these as you go, you could be a fairly, not quite an Eldritch Knight, but you could be a fairly decent caster if you take 3 of these things, and they build on one another, Again, like with the first one is like 2 cantrips on the first level, maybe the next one is another first level and a second, and then maybe the last one is you get 1 third level spell or something like that. And it would just give you a lot of utility and stuff like that. They do that here, which I really, really enjoy. If you pick the background, you immediately get the Initiative High Sorcery, which we just went through. And then when you do that, you can specialize by picking one of the other feats. One is the Adept of Black Robes, the Adept of Red Robes, and the Adept of White Robes. And the prerequisite is you have to have been an initiate first to then be able to take this other one. But I really, really like that. So you also have to be 4th level, which I get as well, though. Preventing you from just taking it immediately at level 1 if you're variant human.
Yes. Sorry,
yeah. But I don't know. I think it's really good. I just wanted to have a look. Maybe there's also a similar thing where if you pick the Squire of Solemnia, you can also be. There's 3 other feats, which are Knight of the Crown, Knight of the Sword, Knight of the Rose, and again, each of those is like an added step or an addendum and an add-on to the Squire thing. And I kind of noticed there, Martin, that you seem a little bit excited about those. You want to maybe go through those and say we won't get to cover all of them, but do you want to go through the knight, the 3 knight feats that go along with that?
Oh god, they're really good. They're like really, really good. Okay, so they're crown, sword, and rose, and they all kind of specialize in a different thing. So like Knight of the Crown, you specialize in there's an order of knights that extols the virtues of cooperation, loyalty, and obedience, and because of that you excel in group combat. So you get to increase strength or dex by 1 to max 20. And then you get a feature called Tactical Teamwork. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes an attack roll against another creature that's within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to grant advantage on the attack roll. You can use that reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you get all uses expended back in a long rest. That's pretty good, I think. That's pretty solid. The one
That's
I think
really cool battlefield commander kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like it's a similar thing you can do with the Storm Rune with Rune Knight.
Oh, the Rune Knight. Yeah.
Knight of the Sword is where I think is it Knight of the Sword? Yeah.
Knight of the Sword is the next one.
Yeah, Knight of the Sword is pretty nuts, and Knight of the Rose I think might just be flat out broken.
Okay.
So Knight of the Sword. Again, all these you need first level and the Squire of Solemnia. So you're a knight aligned with the Order of the Sword, a group devoted to heroism and courage. Bravery steals your spirit and grants you the following benefits. This is really good, by the way. Discipline spirit. You gain proficiency in intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saves you probably won't have as a martial character.
True. If you're playing like, unless I think don't paladins get?
Paladins get wisdom and charisma. But if you're playing like fighter, I think like actually ranger gets wisdom as well.
Fighters get
fighter get con and strength
or dex, I think.
Yeah, I think it's strength actually.
Or is it set? I thought it was like a choice.
I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've been a level 1 fighter. But fighters get normally like strength and con. Barbarians get strength and con. You don't get a lot of that, and then like that's really good anyway.
Strength and con, you're right on fighters.
But that's really good anyway. But then here comes the second feature, Willpower, which is amazing. Immediately after you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you fail an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma save, you can expend a hit die. The saving throw increases by an amount equal to a roll of that hit die, potentially turning a failure into a success. Once you've turned a failed saving throw into a successful one using this feat, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. If I took that on log, I could roll a 12 on a saving throw.
Yeah, that's really good. Like
because of barbarian con, like
you have to.
Like that's insane.
Do you actually lose the hit die then, don't you? Yeah. Or do you?
It says expend. No. It says expend. So I think.
Oh, it says expend. So you do. Yeah. So you spend 1 hit dice. Yeah. That's not bad though. That's really good.
It's really good. And that's the one I said that was really good. Like it's basically a way for you to take a feat with your like martial character who's probably not gonna have the greatest mental stats. And you can maybe not have to make a magic anti-mind control helmet. Maybe you can just take this feat.
True. Very true.
But yes, this is the one that's I think is actually broken. Is Knight, and I mean that in a good way. I don't mean it could potentially be unbalanced, but Knight of the Rose. So the Knights of the Order of the Rose are a group known for leadership, justice, and wisdom. Your resolve grants you the following benefits: you increase your con or charisma by 1 to a max of 20. And then you get the feature Bolstering Rally. When you roll initiative, you can choose up to 3 other creatures you can see within 30 feet of you. Each creature can gain temporary hit points equal to a roll of your hit die plus your proficiency bonus plus the ability modifier of the ability score you increase by this feat. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. That's the one where I was like, if I put that on log, that's going to be insane.
So you get temporary hit points equal to a roll of your hit dice, which yes, if you're a barb, very, very high.
So for log, that would
your
be
proficiency and your ability score modifier you increased with this. By the way, just I know it's not what they meant, but I like how they're known for leadership, justice, and wisdom, and you get charisma or con increases.
Yeah, but like just doing some like maths on my character stats in that one. So the hit die is a D12 because barbarian.
Yeah.
Proficiency is 5 at the moment.
Yeah.
And then plus my modifier for that, which would be plus 4. So that's a plus 9 already, with a potential to add 12 to it.
even if you just take the average, which is 7, it's 16.
Yeah,
which is an insane.
That's every time you roll initiative, you can do that.
That's really good.
It's really
I like. Yeah, that's really really good.
Like it's and what I like is they're all good, but they're all good for different things. These I would almost consider these almost like ways you can patch holes in your character. Like if your character is particularly weak at something, like you have bad mental stats, go for Order of the Sword, like Knight of the Sword. You want to be more of like a team fighter, battlefield controller, Knight of the Crown. You want to be able to like heal your allies or like essentially give them like an overshield. Order of the Rose. And you've that it's the same as we were talking about for the other wizard subclasses. They have like 3 very specific roles you can play based on the feats.
I'm just imagining the do you know what's great about this? I said this a while ago. If I read a UA and it evokes like ideas of games I could run or characters I could play or anything like that, I think it's so good. And all of these I can see playing into a really really cool either paladin or a fighter or barbarian who's like an old kind of warrior who's been through a lot of different battles, and they're like people just rally around them. So like I see the Order of the Rose there, and like that's essentially when you start a battle, it's like everyone's drawing their weapons, but you draw your weapon, throw your sword in the air, and you're like, come on man, let's get him, and you're like you say something or you shout something really inspirational, and everyone gets pumped up as a result.
It's Thor arriving in Wakanda. Like it's okay. We're it's on now.
Thanos.
Like the cavalry has arrived. Like
but yeah, no, I think that's very much. I like it. I really really like it.
Yeah.
I like these a lot. I just think again I like the idea that they build on one another, but I also think that like. Do you know what? It's a little bit kind of. I think 4th edition had a lot of this, where people had a lot more moves in 4th edition, like. I think fighters could make like a cleaving attack and stuff like that. You have these things. I like the idea that some of these feats we're seeing now are kind of filling out these ideas, and giving you a feature or a special move you can do on the battlefield. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like getting additional spells as a caster as well. But I think that literally any of those abilities I think are all top notch. Giving yourself extra hit dice at the start of combat, or not hit dice, pardon me, but giving yourself additional temp HP, giving someone a advantage, one person advantage on attack roll, but again up to your proficiency modifier number of times, which is really good. And then what was the last one again? Oh, if someone fails, you spend 1 hit dice and then add that in with some other stuff, I believe, isn't it? Like it's
Oh, sorry. That's if someone fails an intelligence, charisma, or wisdom saving throw, you can expend a hit dice, roll it, and add that to the save.
Right, yeah. Which is still really good, and the great thing about that is
really good.
It's really, really good, and it's really, really good because it says immediately after you or a creature can see within 30 feet of you fails the save. It doesn't say when they are forced to make the save, you can choose to buff them out. You already know they've failed. The DM has rolled, or the player has rolled, the DM has says that's a fail, and then you get to decide. Because a lot of features, I feel they're steering away from this in some of the newer stuff in D&D. And some older stuff used to be like, oh, you can do this thing after you roll the dice, but before you know what the result is. Which I always thought was a strange rule. I get why it's there, but I always felt like it's strange because the flow of the table doesn't normally accommodate that. Like the DM doesn't go, what did you get? And the player goes 11, and then the DM goes, right, does anyone have anything they'd like to do? No. They immediately tell you 11, that's a fail, So I like that this is it always reminds me of Smite with Paladins, where you can decide to smite after you know you've already hit. So in this case, you can decide to buff this character's save after you know they've already failed. You're not wasting it because you think they might roll low. You know they rolled low, and now you're going to try and give them a chance to succeed on it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want, like, there's only actually 2 feats left in it. It's Divine Favor and Divine Communications. We could really quickly run over those.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So Divinely Favored. We'll go with this one first because you need Divinely Favored for Divine Communications. Divinely Favored. A god has chosen you to carry a spark of their divine power. You learn Thaumaturgy and 1 first level spell based on the alignment of your character as specified in the alignment spells table. You can cast the chosen first level spell without a spell slot, and you must finish a long rest before you can cast it in this way again. You can also cast a spell using any spell slots you have. Your spellcasting ability for this is Int, Wiz, or Charisma, and you choose when you select the feat. So building on top of that, then you get Divine Communications. You get an ASI and ability score increase, so you can increase the spellcasting ability you chose by 1 to a maximum of 20 when you take Divine Communications after Divine Favored. Celestial Tongues, you learn to speak, read, and write Celestial and 2 other languages of your choice, so you get 3 languages, which is really good. And then you get a feature called Divine Omens. You can cast Augury and Commune without a spell slot, but you must finish a 1d4 long rests before you can cast it in this way again. But as the other one said, you can also cast it using any spell slots you already have of the appropriate level. And the spellcasting ability is the one you choose when you chose Divine Flavor.
That's really good. That's an interesting mechanic that they make you wait 1d4 long rests.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I think it's quite cool, but it's a powerful feat. So
it's Commune. Like Commune is a big spell.
Yeah, absolutely. You think Commune's only get 3 questions you can ask, and they can be yes/no questions, right?
Augury is like wheel, woe, and no answer. Yeah.
Besides, I mean Commune. Commune is the one where you can get yes or no answers to up to 3 questions. I think so. Yeah. That's really good. Honestly, I like this. Again, this gives you the option to play in a similar way that you can play any character and be part of that order. This gives you the option of playing any class and race and whatever, and then you can be like, but I am aligned with this god, you know?
Yeah, born under a certain star kind of thing, like. Yeah,
and you could be like a rogue or a sorcerer or a warlock even, you know, but maybe not a warlock, that could be a bit complex, but it's like a fiendish warlock, and you're like, but I worship this god.
It could be an evil god.
Potentially. Actually, yeah. But yeah, so it actually works really, really well. I think it's really cool. One thing this reminds me of, and I'm conscious of time, so we're going to wrap up now. One thing that reminds me of is I've always wanted to play a bard who was like a speaker for the church. Ooh. So he like sings religious songs and stuff like that, but he's all about just spreading the word of the church. Yeah. So really high charisma. And you take like an acolyte background or something like that, and very, very, very different from the randy bards you hear about online and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. An evangelist bard is one I've now. Yes, Conor.
An evangelist bard, exactly. But Martin, that's all the time we have for today.
Okay, that was such a fun UA. That UA is like, it actually makes me really excited to see what potentially will come for like fighters and other martial classes in like a 6th edition or a 5.5.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the subclass was really good anyway. Going through the backgrounds and feats, I like how they fit into one another. And I like that the feats stack with each other. They get more powerful as it's almost like you're following a career path.
Yeah. It's a good way to gain really power cool. and kind of meet it out at appropriate times.
Yeah, and you could always do something like this in your game if you really wanted to. If you have a player who is like choosing certain arcs, maybe you give them one of these after they have finished. Like maybe you want to be part of the church but you can't get in, and then you do something that allows you to get in, so you give them the initiate one, and then after they've or rather say they want to be part of the Order of Knights, and you're like, yeah, sure, you can be a squire, and you get the rank of squire, so here's your feat. And then like after you do some more stuff and jobs for the church and this Order of Paladins, are like, oh, that's really, really good, you can join one of these 3 orders now, and you get the feat as a reward instead of getting like magic items or gold or something like that.
Yeah, no, like feats as a reward is legit, like, and often can be more impactful than like gold or anything. Alrighty, and a quick special note, because it did occur to me just recently. I believe this will be our St. Patrick's Day episode, or it'll come out the day after St. Patrick's Day.
Everyone will be listening to this really hungover on Friday.
on our brand new bank holiday. Yes, but as it is, this will be our St. Patrick's Day video. I just wanted to say very happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody listening and watching, from myself and Conor and everyone and the Micflayers family. And Askelga Lafayette Patrick McCarja. So happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, folks. Have fun, have a good time, but also be safe, because, you know.
And don't drink green beer.
Sorry?
Don't drink green beer.
Don't drink green beer. Stop dyeing things green. It's a little bit offensive.
More annoying than offensive, but we'll take it. On that note,
they have to stop doing it though.
On that note, Conor, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me on the internet at 0.Conor, ZEROPOINTCONOR, 1N, very important. And every Friday here on the Micflayers podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor Breaker, and Radio Republic. I did it off the top of my head that time.
Nice. That's the coffee.
6 p.m. That is 6 p.m. Irish time on all those aforementioned platforms. Martin, where can people find you on the internet?
Thank you. You can mostly find me on the internet on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over, and on the Micflayers podcast Twitter at MicFlayersPod. And as always, every Friday, as Conor said, 6 p.m. Irish time on a new episode of the Micflayers podcast. Thanks, folks.
Later, folks.